At 6 o'clock, I call to order the planning commission meeting for the village of Belleville, February, August 12, 2026. Roll call, please.
Larry Lowe.
Here.
Zach Brunel.
Here.
Steve Landry is absent. Kelly Nice.
Here.
Jared Wells is not. Gary Ziegler.
Here.
Mike Service.
Here.
You have a forum. All right, stay there.
Pause.
I'm tired.
Public comments. We have public comments.
I have no public comments at this time.
Consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a commission member requested, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered the first item after the approval of the consent agenda. Tonight we've got the minutes from our July 8th commission meeting.
I'll move approval of consent agenda.
Second. Gary, second by Larry. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh. Passes. Next item of business is a conditional use permit of 2026-13 for 1019 River Street, Suite 4.
So you guys held a public hearing for this last month. We were still waiting on a couple of things that didn't get up to the last minute, so I didn't have time to put together a review for you, but I did this time. I did reach out to Fire EMS and PD, and I only received some feedback from PD, which I incorporated into my review. Yeah, basically taking the 3 stalls adjacent to Piquera, Los Olivos restaurant, and Belleville shopping center. Yeah, I mean, main concern obviously is that it's placing it in parking stalls immediately adjacent to the really narrow and well-traveled driveway. So.
We had there were some comments about year-round lighting. Is this a permanent fence that's going to be around there year-round, or is it going to come down?
Well, that's a good question. So the materials they originally had talked about putting up for the fencing would be fairly easily moved. So, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily need to be a year-round, but I believe the chief recommended they put up jersey barriers, cement blocking. Basically, that'll be a little more difficult to move. You have to get machinery involved in the driveway.
Okay.
Which is gonna make that even narrower there, if you do those.
I can't remember, I know this is for a beer garden, and I'm trying to remember when we updated the ordinances, if some of the old beer garden rules still applied, like the fencing had to be permanent and cemented in.
Yeah.
Which would be my concern, is I don't think a beer garden can be a temporary situation because of the alcohol.
And then you said you did not get a response from fire?
Correct, or EMS, which I don't know exactly what they would have had, but fire would have been. Yeah, over.
I guess, my only question would have been, is there turning radius there for the fire truck?
Yeah.
To get it through.
I mean, to that point, there is an island on the east side of that, so they have that there. That's there now anyways, yeah, but still, I mean, that's that's narrow there. I'm not so worried about fire, they can come in from the other end.
Yeah, they're not planning on going past, the painted lines in the stall. So, I mean, it's the same as if, vehicles were parked there. Just that instead of vehicles parked there, there'd be people and the ODC there, so.
Is that 3 stalls including the food truck trailer? Is that where they're gonna serve it out of?
No, it would be separate, yeah.
No, the restaurant's right in the building, so.
Yeah, the entrance for this would be right across the sidewalk from the door.
So the serving alcohol, I read this a couple times, but, so can somebody, it's gotta be a sealed container, it would have to be a sealed container that comes out of the entrance door to the restaurant, and then it goes into the beer garden, correct?
Not necessarily, it would have to be served by someone with an operator's license.
Okay.
So you could move to and from the beer garden, just anybody would have.
So somebody can't, just can somebody grab an alcoholic beverage in the store and then walk the?
No.
Okay.
So and this is a similar situation that Johnny O's where the person with the operator's license, a server can carry their alcohol for them, but a customer cannot
Okay.
carry it across.
That's what I thought, I just wanted to.
Literal physical connection to the whatchamacallit, establishment, there's an
Right.
operational.
Okay. All right. And there were a couple of things, other things you mentioned there about the dimensions or how many, the calculations for how many parking stalls they need and all that stuff. You've got that stuff yet from them or?
I haven't done any of the things in our.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see it, but I have concerns and I've never seen, at least in a memo, if you've read 12 or 14 or 15 conditions, whatever it was at the end, that we have to.
I mean, there's some that are there every time, but.
So as far as we know, the rendering that they sent us is 6 tables and I know one of you said in there, one of those has to be a handicap accessible table and.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and the rendering was as close as the AI could get them, it's not.
So somebody that's got a disability or that's handicapped, where is the ramp over there?
Well, yeah, the other way we can put it would be directly coming off the sidewalk, coming in.
So they'd have to redo the sidewalk there to put a ramp so that they get down into the.
They can build it off of the sidewalk to do it, and they just lose the table.
Okay.
This is actually the old render.
I don't think I got the new rendering.
Yeah, they moved it over 2 spaces because actually right where the center line table is, there's a pedestrian walkway.
So they moved it over 2 spaces to the west then?
Yes.
So the 2 spaces that will be available will be the one right next to the island and then the next one, so, okay.
Yeah, because that's right where the pedestrian walkway is painted there, going between Christian Brothers and the sidewalk.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't have the updated render. I see there's a condition for an ADA accessible table. Okay, in the ADA accessibility, here we go. ADA accessible gate. So there's the ramp for getting that.
Yeah,
That's what I was asking before, right?
Set up?
I've got the record, I can email to him right now. Gary Kelly.
So Mike just asked the same question I had before. So the ramp, the current handicap ramp to get into there is, do we know where that's located? If it's not, we're gonna have to either make the entrance from the building to the beer garden where that ramp is, or they're gonna have to put another ramp in, or they're gonna have to, and then come in and or go down into the parking lot area and then come in on that south end.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that where the painted crosswalk is, where the ramp comes up.
Okay, I see that now. Here. Yes, here, this is the crosswalk. So the ramp should be there, right? Should be. When they were doing this, this is the, yeah. So the first two stalls and then those two are empty, so.
And the west of that are gonna be empty, so.
Okay. Yeah. Email all y'all and update, the updated rendering. Nobody there.
So you said you didn't get the completed parking calculation?
Another wrench in that is because the biggest had started doing U-Haul. So they started using an X number of stalls for U-Haul vehicles.
I read this map correctly, so the crosswalk is, so they were covering the crosswalk up before.
Originally, yeah.
Pardon?
Originally, yes.
Originally, so they've corrected it now, okay. So again, the ramp, there is no handicap ramp to get into the beer garden from the north side. They would have to, somebody in a wheelchair would have to come in on the south side entrance.
Well, I think they could still go through the north side entrance. Like I said, they would just have to build a ramp.
Unless they put a ramp at the entrance.
That's what I read, was they were gonna build a ramp at the entrance to the beer garden.
If you have
Shut it down. Just a lot of pieces that haven't been answered yet. Maybe anything, but good.
You know, if we just say, you would not put a, conditional use permit in the consent agenda until all those were met, but, like I said, you've written us a lot of memos in the last couple of years, and there's a ton of contingencies on this thing, so.
Yeah, they said there's 2 or 3 that go with every.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
Consent agenda when it meets all these conditions.
So usually you guys approve the application contingent on whatever, and then we put the official document goes to registered deeds that also includes conditions in it on the consent agenda, because you've already technically did it.
Yeah.
If you've got serious concerns here that you would like maybe even more information for, or like, then I would say, don't make a motion.
Yeah.
Only make a motion to approve or deny if you're sure that, you know, because that's a final. Once you make the motion, that's the final choice. But if you would like, and I'm not sure if the applicant, I don't think we've had a conversation with him recently. Obviously, they're not here tonight.
With the things I wrote down, the parking calculation, the plan of service and alcohol, the vision triangle.
Because what you mentioned, U-Haul, so are they doing those, where are they storing those? I guess I didn't pay attention.
Right up by the road.
That's in the.
Oh, yeah.
That's in the larger part of the
Okay.
parking lot, right?
But it's still for the joint use for all the different
Right.
tenants they have in there.
Well, so yeah, that's my question with do all those stalls in that parking lot, to determine the number of stalls that are required, I think in your letter, you said it was just what these guys have, the square footage, that determines how many stalls they need, but these stalls are not designated by business, I don't think, over there, are they?
No, so each individual tenant, depending on their use, square footage, however it's calculated, has to have a certain number of parking stalls. The parking lot is what it is, so you just have to make sure there's enough parking stalls cumulatively to make up for every tenant.
And then you also mentioned there's an agreement, that the landlord is gonna have to do some agreements. I mean, like I said, I'd like to see this go, but my tendency is when we go back when we close the public hearing, then I'm gonna make a motion to table until we get all this, till more of this information is.
Just a reminder, we've had the public hearing on this one, so you guys are just in discussion at this point.
Okay.
We did the public hearing on this particular item last month.
Well, then I'm gonna make a motion that we table this until all the items listed in Ian's memo they did today are
I'll second it. Here, second by Larry. Any discussion on that?
I have a concern about the traffic pattern. Pedestrians versus cars, so to speak. I think it wouldn't hurt a bit if they could cut 2 foot off the south end of that patio or the patio deal. And that way way would give a little bit more safety concern for the traffic. Because even though they'll have lights there and reflective tape and all this, with the amount of cars and the way they drive sometimes, I don't think that's gonna be enough for safety. And I'm surprised that the chief of police didn't go along a little bit with that. Where he recommended, he didn't think it was that great of a problem. I'm a little concerned about that.
Did have a recommendation for some barricades. So,
And if my calculation is right, if they knock 2 foot off, distance of that, it's only 54 square feet. And that's not much. Considering what we've got going.
well, the motion is to have it tabled until the conditions are met in the staff memo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, ordinance updates, public hearing, 2026-15, starting out with the presentation by staff.
So this is a anti-monotony ordinance. It was proposed by trustee, and I really only amended it to have it for you guys. So, yeah, that's all I've got.
So I asked you last night, and are there any other municipalities that have a similar ordinance?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, no, it's neither common nor uncommon. Not every municipality has them, but they definitely do exist.
Presentation by White Oak Home Builders.
Good evening, my name is Kyle Carrier and I'm the broker at Best Realty of Edgerton. I'm also a listing agent for White Oak Home Builders New Construction Homes here in Belleville. I've been in the real estate business for 21 years, starting at age 13 in my family-owned small business. I've been licensed realtor for the last 16 years. I strongly oppose this proposed ordinance, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys on this evening. This is two things I'm pretty passionate about when it comes to real estate: is consumer choice and property rights. I believe these two things at the heart are what makes a healthy housing market work. Buyers should have the ability to choose the home that best fits their needs, their preferences, and their budget. And builders should have the ability to respond to that demand. So just kind of quick summary, the core issue here for us is that we agree, we want attractive neighborhoods, quality homes, responsible development, but we also need to protect housing affordability, home ownership opportunities, and consumer choice. The key question: does this proposed ordinance accomplish its aesthetic goal without making homes more expensive or reducing the choices to potential buyers? We need to consider the unintended consequences of every regulation, especially when housing affordability is already a problem in today's world. The question isn't whether architectural diversity sounds like a good idea. The question is whether this particular regulation produces enough benefit to justify the cost it imposes on builders and ultimately homebuyers. So just to give you a quick idea on pricing, in 2016, Belleville average sale price, $238,681. 5 years later, in 2021, that jumped to $323,000. And now in 2026, we're at $450,511. 88% increase in the last 10 years, 40% in the last 5 years. Housing affordability is already becoming more difficult. Adding costs to new construction should be carefully considered. When you compare this to White Oak Home Builders, Their average new construction sale price in 2021 was $329,934. Their average sale price in 2026, $401,657. 21.7% increase in the last 5 years, almost half of the price of the increase of another home in Belleville. White Oak has already demonstrated that it can continue providing new construction at competitively attainable price points. And as of this meeting, they have the most affordable new construction home in all of Dane County. White Oak is a major source of new housing in Belleville. So as of this year, we've sold 35 homes so far, 16 additional under contract for a total of 51 transactions scheduled to close or already closed in 2026. The rest of Belleville listings, not including anything built by White Oak Home Builders, 22 sold, 4 under contract, 26 total transactions. So from this builder, they have accounted for over 66% of all the home sales in Belleville. Outside of White Oak's listings currently, there's 2 active homes on the market in all of Belleville. So my question would be, if we restrict what this builder can build, does 2 homes to choose from give these buyers more choice? We did a survey amongst people who purchased our homes within the last few years. So we sent this out to, would have been probably close to 100, 150 people. And this is what they told us they valued the most. 46.7% of people said floor plan, layout was the #1 reason they purchased the home that they did. #2 reason was affordability, 40%. Third reason, 6.7% was location or neighborhood. 0% said home aesthetics or home appeal, curb appeal. The 2 leading factors identified by buyers, floor plan and affordability, are the exact things that this ordinance would create as a worst problem. They will both be affected by this ordinance, and I believe the buyers have the right to choose their floor plan that they want at an affordable price. We asked buyers about affordability and how important that was to them. 93.3% said affordability was important. 6.7% said affordability was somewhat important. 100% of the surveyed buyers considered affordability at least somewhat in their transaction. If additional design requirements increase construction costs, these costs ultimately have to be reflected in the price paid by future home buyers, affecting what is most important, and that is affordability. So just a few other things that I referenced in the 2024 Belleville Housing and Workforce Study. In 2024, Belleville Housing and Workforce Study showed that there is not enough affordable housing in Belleville. This study identified a shortage of affordable housing and a lack of housing options. So why would we adopt a new regulation that could make some of our most affordable new homes more expensive or limit how many of them can be built? The study also stated that there was not enough affordable housing. Home values are rising quickly due to increasing home size, higher interest rates, lack of movement in the housing market, and rising construction prices and labor shortages. It also says Belleville should be reducing administrative burdens and streamlining the development process. This ordinance is in the exact opposite direction of what Belleville was recommended to do. Adding another layer to the design review and another reason a compliant home could be delayed or denied. I want to point out something that I think is extremely important. I'm not asking you guys to take my word for it that unnecessary regulations can help hurt housing affordability. Belleville's own 2024 housing study says that restrictions can increase the administrative burden of new home construction without any measurable public benefit. That is exactly the question I think we need to ask about this ordinance. What measurable public benefit are we getting in exchange for the additional cost and administrative burden that this ordinance creates, as well as further increasing the cost of homes to future buyers? The village's own housing study says that the village should be working with developers to understand what they need in order to profitably build housing. I'm here tonight to tell you exactly what this ordinance would mean for one of the builders actually producing a significant amount of Belleville's new construction. I'm asking you to listen to information before adding another requirement to the construction process. I think that's a standard we should apply to this ordinance. Does it reduce housing costs? Does it increase housing choices? Does it reduce administrative burden? Does it make development easier? And can we identify a measurable public benefit that justifies the additional costs and restrictions? Because if the answer to those questions is no, I do not think this ordinance is consistent with the direction Belleville has indicated it wants to grow. We did also poll the neighbors that have purchased and asked about how they were satisfied with the neighborhood appearance. 93.4% of survey buyers were neutral, satisfied, or very satisfied with the overall appearance of the subdivision they lived in. This raises another important question, is what problem is the ordinance trying to solve? If the people who purchased and live in these neighborhoods are overwhelmingly satisfied with their appearance, the village should carefully consider whether additional restrictions are necessary. I think we also need to ask who is actually receiving the benefit from this ordinance. If a buyer chooses a particular floor plan, the buyer is happy with that home, and the homeowners living in the subdivision are already satisfied with the appearance of the neighborhood, what benefit is this ordinance providing to people who don't live in the subdivision? Why should someone who doesn't own property in that neighborhood get to decide that a home buyer can no longer choose the home they want? Or they must pay more for that home if they do, simply because the village has determined that too many people have already chosen the same floor plan is not a good enough reason. So just for an example, our most popular floor plan would be probably our 1902 ranch floor plan. So if we have 10 buyers that want that same 1902 ranch and this ordinance prevents us from building that plan, some of these buyers would not be able to purchase the plan that they want. Those buyers have made their choice. They want the floor plan, they can afford it, and they're choosing to purchase it. This ordinance would effectively place a limit on how many buyers can choose that particular home, regardless of continued market demand. More architectural variation does not necessarily mean more consumer choice. It can actually mean fewer homes that buyers want and can afford. If a buyer wants the 1902 ranch, why should anyone be able to tell that buyer they cannot have it simply because other buyers have already chosen that home? In my view, this goes beyond regulating neighborhood appearance and begins to interfere with the buyer's ability to choose what home fits their needs and budget best. When we did the survey, 53.3% of surveys said that they would have purchased outside of Belleville had that floor plan that they wanted not been available. An additional 13% said they would not have purchased a home at all if that plan was not available. So that's over 66% of our home buyers that if we didn't have the plan they wanted, we couldn't offer it, they would not have moved to Belleville. Limiting housing choices does not necessarily mean creating more choices. It can eliminate choices and send buyers back to other communities. So costs created by requiring continually different architectural designs from the exterior. It's going to cause increased design cost, engineering costs, structural changes, truss changes, construction inefficiencies, longer plan review times at both the builder and at the village level, higher marketing costs, additional construction complexity, and these costs do not disappear. They essentially get passed on to the home buyer. So what I think we should be trying to accomplish that's more important than making sure the exterior of the homes look different is number one, affordable home ownership opportunities. Two, quality new construction, attractive and diverse neighborhoods, and a regulatory approach that allows buyers to choose the homes that they want. The bottom line is Belleville home prices have increased substantially. White Oak is providing new construction at attainable price points. White Oak represents over 2/3 of Belleville homes sold and under contract for the year 2026. 93% of surveyed buyers said affordability was important. 46.7% identified floor plan layout as the number one reason why they purchased. Why should we prevent them from choosing the plan that they want? 0% identified aesthetics or appeal as the reason they purchased their home. So in closing, at the end of the day, I believe we all want the same thing. We want Belleville to be a community where families want to live, where businesses want to invest, where neighborhoods are attractive, and where people can afford to buy a home. But good intentions do not always produce good outcomes. The question before you tonight isn't whether architectural diversity is a good thing. The question is whether this particular ordinance is worth the cost it will impose on the people we're trying to help. We have buyers telling us what they want. They want homes they can afford. They want floor plans that fit their families. They are already telling us they are satisfied with the neighborhoods they're buying into. So I ask you to think about the buyer who walks into our office and says, I want this house, I can afford this house, this is the house that works for my family. Why should I tell that buyer, I'm sorry, but someone else already chose that house, you cannot have it? That doesn't create choice, it takes away choice. And if the answer is that we can give them the same floor plan, but we're going to have to change the exterior, then I ask who's paying for that change? The village isn't, the builder isn't going to absorb every additional cost forever, and ultimately the buyer is the one who pays. At a time when housing affordability is already one of the biggest challenges facing our communities, I don't believe we should be adding more cost to homes unless we can clearly demonstrate that the benefit is worth that cost. This isn't about protecting a builder's business model. It's about protecting the home buyer's ability to choose. It's about protecting affordability, and it's about recognizing that when government limits what can be built, it ultimately limits what people can buy. And I understand the aesthetic benefit of architectural variation, but what I have not seen is evidence that the benefit is significant enough to justify additional costs and restrictions that this ordinance would impose. So I'm asking you tonight to reconsider this ordinance in its current form. Let's make Belleville a community where a first-time home buyer or working family can walk into a real estate office and find the home they want and afford to buy it. Because at the end of the day, I believe Belleville should be a community with more choices, not fewer. More opportunities, not more barriers, and more attainable home ownership, not more regulations that make it harder to achieve. And I thank you for the time and allowing me to speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. So, you know, reading some of your letter and your presentations focuses a bit on floor plans. The ordinance doesn't have any wording in it about floor plans. That's being proposed, so I think, not sure what the actual,
Can I speak again?
sure, go ahead.
I mean, essentially, it does limit the floor plans because you have to make so many tweaks, and you can only make so many tweaks to those plans. So if we build that one 15 times, how many architectural variations can you truly make without adjusting the cost or running out of variations that you can make to build that? So it does put a ceiling on how many times that plan can be built.
I guess I don't fully understand that. When, you list out several ways of addressing facades, front porches, setbacks, garage placements. I don't think, from what I read in the ordinance, it didn't have anything that said you couldn't have, to me, the floor plan's the interior layout of the rooms. Am I wrong?
Correct, yes, but you can only take that plan and make so many exterior variations of that. Again, without adjusting costs. I mean, 90% of the things listed in that we have to do has a cost associated with it that would go to the home buyers.
So you did mention in your letter changing, brick inside or brick on the building or moving putting the garage on the other side or, switching so yeah, I agree with Mike. I don't think that the ordinance isn't specific. When I think floor plan, I think how the rooms are laid out on the inside of the house. So, and my other comment would be, first of all, that's brought up some good points in the letter. But the other item here, you talked about people having a choice. You guys own all the lots and don't allow any other builders currently.
We've sold off lots. We've sold off lots to other builders. Anyone who approaches us, we've had conversations with numerous builders about purchasing lots. We probably sold off just in that one phase of Bell West alone was probably 7.
Okay.
And just one phase.
It's news to me, so, okay.
So this was based off of your own survey? For me, it's a little concerning that, 0% of home buyers consider aesthetics to be a concern. And that to me is a problem in itself, in the fact that I question, long-term pride of ownership if you don't have a concern about the aesthetics of your home.
I'll be very honest, so this, and it says residential here, so does that mean just single-family residential, or would that apply to duplexes and multifamily and everything?
That's a good question, and Kyle had that question earlier. It looks very much to me that it's single family.
So, and again, from when I drive through the neighborhood over there, I do see a lot of the same houses. The ones that really bother me more, or that really, it looks like, I don't know how I would describe it, but is the multifamily, they all look the same. So a little variety I would like to see, but if it doesn't apply, if the ordinance doesn't apply to that right now, then, because the way I interpreted it was just single family,
Like
so.
I said, I didn't change anything in the substance of the ordinance, other than just to make the adding and references, whatever match our current ordinance. So all the wording is as it was brought to me.
And
The multifamily was all done under a PUD. So like in Baker's Woods, so like all those big buildings are all, you guys approved all of that under a PUD. So you approved all the elevations on the multifamily unit.
I'm not 100%, but I think the impotence of this ordinance coming in to us is a lot of the feedback that I also have heard from residents about basically the facade of the house is all being basically just a sheer face, not anything to break it up, or window placement or little soffits or porches and things. They look like I can't remember the exact words that I've heard, but just government housing in a way. I guess you call it that. And I do remember one individual had concerns to me that the sign that was up for sale showed a soffit or something on the houses, and none of them had it. So what was being sold there was one of his concerns. So I think that's where the community is coming from when we're talking about this. I think, speaking for myself, and you guys can speak for yourselves also, but I'm here more looking for what the community wants than what the buyer of a home wants. So I guess that's kind of my angle.
Isn't the buyer the one that's into your community though? Like, aren't you guys wanting buyers here? Right?
Well, yes, we do. We want to continue growth. That's not.
That just, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So I mean, we also
I think
to the point of only 2 other homes for sale, outside of what you have provided us for homes. To me, that is saying that our residents are happy. We don't have people leaving and making homes available. So yeah, we have a net inflow of people. So maybe we're doing something right.
Or we're doing something right.
Right, well-
Most people having a lot of equity in their houses and interest rates being high, so they don't have many places to go because of affordable housing out there, right? Like, there's not enough builders like us that they can go and move their families other places, right? Like, that's why people aren't selling their houses. That's a big part of
Right.
the world right now.
That's the market we're in.
Yeah, for sure.
I think anecdotally, from my standpoint, there is something to be said for the variability of housings to contributing to small town charm, because we then have defining features and you have unique looking neighborhoods that do draw people into town. And I think one of the other arguments to be made is you're saying that this could potentially limit choices to buyers who are buying a home right now. But we could turn this around and say that in 5 years when people look to start selling houses, we all of a sudden are limiting buying potential at that point because we have 7 houses that look the exact same. And are you going to then compete with offers on the same house, or are you going to go consider looking at the house that is slightly different?
I think those buyers are gonna go to the older part of Badger Trails over there and look at all the houses that are ran down and people don't mow their lawns and they don't take care of them, so I don't know how that makes any sense, but I guess, with the brand new construction, you're just not gonna end up with that. Now the variety of homes that we're offering, we had one subdivision that everybody's basing what we're doing on, that I feel like the village had a lot to do with that subdivision, so when you go and look at every other thing we built besides Baker's Woods, I don't think there's an issue. This would have never came up if it wasn't for that, and I feel like that was my fault as well as the village, because the village had just as much say in that subdivision as everybody else. And so I just feel like maybe there's a few people within the community that are trying to punish us for something like that when, all we're trying to do is ask like, hey, give us a chance. You'll see the progress in Badger Trails. There's a lot of different variety out there, and if you don't believe me, then maybe give us a chance, give us a few months, let us get some houses up, you'll see the variety, and you guys can always bring it back, if you're like, hey, we don't like it, we're doing it, that's fine, right? Like, I get it. But if you can, we've learned our lesson, and we know, like, when we come for a project to the village, like, we're gonna make sure, like, hey, you guys are good with these, like, you're good with these elevations, that's something that we just don't want to start a plat and have, like, it will change a tremendous amount of construction for us with elevation wise, because when we're changing fronts of houses, we're bumping out, like, we are changing the floor plan because we're bumping out the fronts. We have to do 2-foot bump outs, on this side, you can't put, when we're building houses in a row on one side of the street, all the garages have to be on the same side. So we can't just go, hey, this 1580 is here, and then we're building this 1580 next door, and we can swap that garage, and that kind of changes the elevation. It doesn't work like that because you'll have water issues. So that's why you see all the garages always, facing the same direction when you go down the street. So we're doing our best in the Badger Trails right now, and you guys would be able to see this with the first 18 permits we pulled. Like, we've done the variety because this was brought to our attention before we started, and we just did it, right? To try to prove to you guys, like, this isn't our intention to just come in here, build the same house over and over and over. But we're gonna build the houses that are the most affordable for the people and try to mix them up throughout the subdivision, right? That is our goal, for sure.
So how many different floor plan plans do you have to offer?
In Badger Trails right now, I've created a few more because we did the bigger lots and the smaller lots. And so our bigger houses, they won't fit on the high density lots. And so I created another 3 floor plans. So that added to it, I have 9 floor plans going into Badger Trails, and just in the first plat, that's 44 lots. So you'll see 9 different floor plans spread out throughout the subdivision, because you'll have, like, the first section we started on was the first 18 lots are all the big lots, which already 13 of those houses are sold, and then we're gonna submit for the next 26 lots, and those are gonna be the more high density lots, which are gonna be a good mixture of 2 stories, and we even created a ranch plan to mix in there as well, which we did 8 ranch plans throughout the 26 lots, to mix them up, so you're gonna get a good variety of elevations, which each floor plan, I have a couple different elevations for. So ultimately, if you wanna think about it, 9 plans, 2 elevations per that's 18 different elevations that, you know, we were able to do. I can't sit here and tell you that every one of those models are gonna stick throughout the whole flat just because, you know, I mean, we'll be able to, I mean, sales is what's gonna matter, right? Like maybe there'll be a house that we build that it's not a good seller, and then, I mean, you just can't continuously repeat and build that, but, so I mean, we're trying, you know, but we just, to put the restriction on us is just making it way more difficult. And we work with Ian a lot, and I mean, I call him almost every day, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, do you think this will work? You know, I mean, things, you know, I'm telling him like, hey, I'm doing these floor plans, and we're trying, and, you know, I mean, I'm hoping he's spreading the word to you guys, but, you know, I know he can only do so much, so I guess that's why I'm saying this, for sure.
It feels like we're arguing, like you're arguing against the same point, because if you're stating that there are multiple options available and you're putting in multiple things, then creating an ordinance to ensure that that stays there isn't really hindering your process if you're already saying that you're proactively doing such.
Yeah, but it goes back to what Kyle said in his speech is what you're doing by that ordinance is you're creating more work for everybody. You're creating more work for the inspectors, the approval process, the planning, everything, to where it's not necessary because we're doing it and you'll see the results, right? And like, it's my word against yours or whatever, and you'd have to trust me on it, but you know, so you're basically creating more work and we're just trying to avoid that.
And I'll say before this ever came up, when we were first talking about Plat 1 for Badger Trail, you did something at that time, they had like 8 different floor plans.
Yeah.
So.
And I added one more sentence, yeah. And there's like a mixture of, I mean, I'm talking anywhere from a single car garage, 3-bedroom, 2.5 baths, all the way up to a 2,600 square foot, 2-story, 4-bedroom, 3-car garage, right? So like, you're getting a mixture of families. I mean, so there's gonna be price points all over the place, which is, I think, what you guys are wanting, you know, and yeah, I mean, I'm more than willing to send it all to you guys, honestly.
How many floor plans did you have available during Baker's Woods?
Baker's Woods, we did that. I mean, you have to, it was all done under a certain PUD, and I mean, we just submitted the plans, like, I mean, and we submitted all the same floor plan and nobody said anything.
That was time you only had 2 floor plans that would fit those lots.
That would fit those particular lots because at that time.
So I guess what you're saying now is that now you're offering 7 more different floor plans and a varying variation of different houses being available, not, you know, the rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, so for the 50-foot, well, I guess the high density lots, which they can range basically from 50 foot to probably anywhere from like 60 feet, is that we have probably 3 2-stories and 1 ranch that will fit on those high density lots. And then the larger lots that would range from like 70 feet to 90 feet, we have 5 models that would fit on that, yeah. That are just wider houses, right, so.
I mean, that's a great question, because Baker's Woods, it seems like every house is the same as you go through there. I'm glad to hear that you have a larger variety of floor plans that people can choose from now, so.
And I think we definitely learned a lesson. We took the feedback from the community as well and from everybody else, you know, so like, we're trying to work with you guys as much as we can, you know, to make everybody happy, honestly. Like, I mean, you know, if that's the only complaint is like, hey, Baker's Woods and the elevations, I mean, you guys, you know, I mean, us as builders, like, I feel like we're trying to do our best to keep everybody happy, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying to do here, so.
I just asked a question for my own clarification.
One more thing is that particular elevation in Baker's Woods, we're not building it anymore. So like you won't see that elevation, that model anymore. So.
Go ahead. Yeah, I just want to know from the developer's perspective, because this is certainly not my field. This starts off, I just want to know if there's a problem as a developer, if there's a difficulty by this very first half of this sentence. No two single-family dwellings or single-family attached buildings of substantially similar front elevation or facade shall be constructed or located adjacent to one another. Simply that. Is that problematic from a builder's perspective?
We don't do that anyways.
Okay, so going to do this a little different, since we do have a public hearing where comments are supposed to try to be limited to 3 minutes. So I'm going to let the committee ask questions if they have any more. Go ahead.
I have a question for you. When you have a prospective customer come to you that's interested in buying a house, what's the program that you use? What do you offer them right off the bat? You ask them, what are you looking for? How big is your family? What are you looking for, whatever, in the floor plan? Now, to me, a floor plan is, okay, designed hopefully for a family of a certain size, correct? And if those people are satisfied with that, are you going to just go ahead and say, okay, we can build it? Or do you have that home already started in hopes that you'll sell it to somebody that comes along and would be maybe interested in that?
Yeah, so everything, it's pretty rare that we pre-sell. Now, we did Badger Trails, but to answer your question, most of what we do is spec, which would mean they would come, they would see the house, and they would pick that house.
Okay.
Like, that we don't have them come and say, hey, you know, I mean, they can, but most of our buyers are just going and saying, I like lot 15, and I like that 2-story or that ranch that you're building on there, that's what I want to buy.
Now, another question for you. You made a statement that you can't build houses. You have to be all the same, the garages all have to be on the same side in the whole block. What's the reason for that?
So it depends on the elevation of the land and kind of the way that the water's going. So what we like to do is say that you have this flat street, right? And then all of a sudden it starts going up and it comes back down. Well, you know, say the water's running, you know, more than likely the street's running in a certain direction. We're gonna put the garage on the high side so the water doesn't, you know, so we just don't have water issues with the house side. And so we like to keep that, and then if you get to the top of the hill and it starts going back down the other way, we'll switch the direction going back down the hill. So the water's hitting the garage and it's flowing around the house, down behind it, or whichever way the water's, you know, supposed to go.
Now, in that respect, in the flat part of a block,
Okay.
I live on the north side, it's flatter than pancake over. When our house was built, we were number 6 in the whole neighborhood, believe it or not, 1974. Then along came some builders that wanted to build, and they started buying lots. Well, the people that bought the lot right next to us to the north decided they wanted a house similar to ours with a few little changes. And guess what? Our garage is on the north side, their garage is on the south side. We're like this. Didn't have a problem because of the elevation. Now, you made a statement about the water line. What's that got to do with the layout of a subdivision?
It's just the way that we've always done it and never had issues. I can't sit there and say that another builder wouldn't come in and flop his house and put his garage next to somebody else's and, you know, and completely mess up the truth of what things that we do, but it's always seemed to work and, you know, we never had the water issues, so,
Now, you're talking about runoff, right?
yeah.
You're not talking about water into the house.
I'm talking about just water that we have to,
Stormwater.
yeah, yes, stormwater.
Groundwater. Yeah, stormwater, yeah.
Like with heavy rains,
Right.
you know, once you start putting all these, I mean, you know, it's just something that we found that works, so.
Okay.
So like, it would be hard to be like, hey, there's 20 houses in this block, right? So like, here's a house, here's the garage, here's this garage, and then you keep doing that. I mean, you can, but you're gonna end up with definitely some water problems. So,
All right.
because of the way you can't do an exposure, like if you have some exposure, you're gonna have a hard time doing exposure on garages, right?
Right.
And so when we're working down the hill, we can do that exposure to get that water to run out, where the house is always sitting on the high side. So,
One more question and I'll let them talk. On the exterior of a house, you made a statement that it changes your cost and it causes problems for this, that. Now tell me if I'm wrong or not. Now, my house has got vinyl siding. Okay? And we've done it in over a number of years. We changed the color, we added insulation behind it, and blah, blah, blah. Now, the people next door, they have vinyl siding, but they also have brick veneer out in the front. So their house looks a little different. But guess what? The inside of their house is exactly the same as mine. You know why? Because when they built it, the people that were building it lost the floor plans and they used to come over to the house and ask my wife, can I measure this room? And they'd measure the room and they'd run back to the other house and do their construction. They just flipped it over and that was it. But that was just an example.
and it was flipped because the garage was flipped.
Right, they just completely flipped it.
Well, yeah, in that scenario, if we had someone that did that exact same thing, it's like, I love that house, I want it right here. We're gonna have to say, okay, you have to add brick, we're gonna have to add a front stoop. It's gonna cost them probably another 15 grand.
Right, I understand it, but that's their choice, right?
Yes.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying, goes now, if they say, hey, I'm only approved to this amount, we've eliminated that choice for them. Not everybody has the choice to pay more.
Like most buyers, well, actually, every buyer comes to us with a pre-approval letter. And that pre-approval letter tells us, this is what I can afford. That's it. It could be anything, 350, 400, 450, it's.
We do have design standards, and correct me if I'm wrong, they do specify how much brick is to be on the front of each house and the, you know, a lot of the details on, you know, how high that goes, you know, percentage coverage, that kind of stuff. So, you know, you do get, there are other ordinances in place that cover some of that.
To me, it just seems like you're trying to avoid a statistical chokehold where you have X amount of lots and your lots are only so big because you're only allowed so many, you know, let's just say you can build 50 homes in this space of land. I guess what I'm getting out of this is that you don't want to have people come to you and say, hey, look, we're approved to build 26 houses, but we can only offer this floor plan 6 times because we can only tweak so much, you know, per whatever. So
No, we don't, that's not how we operate as builders.
But that's what I'm
We don't do
saying.
anything like that.
But that's what I'm saying, is like, you know, this ordinance is restricting your ability to provide this floor plan as many times as your customer wants.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And because your lots are only so big, you can only build you know, these 5 floor plans that you offer without being a truly custom builder and going into the entire design phase, running through a whole different thing. So it just seems to me like you're trying to avoid a statistical chokehold and you've offered more floor plans than what you did over here.
Yeah.
So like you're trying to, I mean, absorb the concerns of what people have said about that thing. And I know a lot of people that live over there and they're very happy with their house. So I have gone into many different homes that are exactly the same, but the outside is not identical. So I guess I get what you're saying, and you know, as far as the runoff goes with the water, and you're finding that's what has worked best, building an entire subdivision before versus the older neighborhoods in Belleville have way larger lots, and you don't really see, you know, that kind of runoff issues is what you would when you have this closer, what was your terminology for, like a, you know, compact or high density housing is what you said. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I also understand that what, you know, other things that I've heard from people who live in different neighborhoods, but I think that there is maybe something to be said about the different sizes of the lots, like in the older neighborhood. My old house, my lot was a lot and a half. You know, but my lot essentially was made to be, your lot would be 3/4 or 5/8 the size of what one standard lot was 50 years ago.
Right.
So I mean, I understand. I mean, I think that there's something to be said about, you know, making things affordable, but also not having it cookie cutter, same. And I think that maybe that line of duplexes is all the same over there in Baker's Woods, and that's maybe throws some people off bit. I mean, again, if you're offering different color variations, different veneer, brick veneer things, and you know, you're moving forward to do that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's something that we've always, like, I will be honest with you, Baker's Woods, the single family houses in there, like, we just built them.
You're foot in the door, right?
Yeah,
You came in there, developed it.
We offered a really good price, and by the time we got to the end, we got the sale price, almost 50,000 more than what we started. That was the goal of that subdivision, right? And now that we've got it and we know that it worked, you know, and obviously it didn't make a lot of people happy, and so we kind of reverted, like you said.
Okay, any other comments from the commission right now? Okay, so, usually during the public hearing, people only get 3 minutes to speak, but obviously we've had, you know, a back and forth here before that. So, I was going to open it up to the public if they have any comments to make. You know, basically without the 3-minute time limit. So, and asking that we try to hold, you know, back and forth questions until the end, if we can. So, any advice on how to do this? Do we want to, can we go longer in? Do we want to do it in public hearing?
You're in the term, so we can start the public hearing. I'm just gonna verify the rule is we're not gonna hold them to the 3-minute limit. We're asking just for them to stand up and make their statement regardless of how long that statement is. And then we'll move on to the next person, close the public hearing if you want to have any more back and forth after that. That's what happened during your, see.
So,
See?
yep, that's what I would like to do.
We can
So,
still take that.
we'll open the public hearing, we'll allow public comment without the 3-minute limit.
Okay.
We'll close the hearing and then we can have discussion. Okay, all right. Okay, so, let me. Last time I opened one of these, give me a second here. All right, now open the public hearing at 7:09 p.m.
Okay, the public hearing notice was published in the Post Reporter on the 23rd and 30th of July. I do have an affidavit of publication that came after the posting of the agenda that is available to you. We also posted the agenda at Village Hall, Village Center, the public library, and on the website on, which I was Friday, August 7th. Okay, so I have
Public participation.
Okay, we'll start with Scott Cannon.
Hello, I'm Scott Cannon. I'm the Belleville Village trustee. I want to speak in favor of this anti-monopony ordinance. I would say, first of all, that this will have no effect on homes already built. You can paint your house whatever color you want. It has no effect on you if your home's built. This only affects new developments. It's been suggested that this limits the choice of home buyers. The homes are built before the buyers buy them. It limits the choices of home. It limits what home builders can do, and we already have lots of restrictions on what home builders can do. This would prevent cookie cutter subdivisions where you just have one house after another that's exactly the same. Now the builder says that it's not their intention to build all the houses in the same design, but they want to make sure they preserve the right to do so. Why do they need the right to do so if they're not going to do so? The builders talk about how their home values have increased less than our home values in Dane County, and talks about the rights of property owners. What about the rights of people who already own property in Belleville to enjoy the same home equity increases that every other Dane County resident is enjoying? This ordinance will help protect property values for people who live here now, people who pay taxes, people we represent. Belleville needs homes at a variety of price points. You don't need every home being at the same price point. The main issue is that we need growth that is manageable, sustainable, not unregulated, willy-nilly growth. He said, trust us, see what we're going to do. We've seen what he's going to do. This will ensure that Belleville maintains the quality of living for the people who already live here, the people who pay taxes here, the people who pay your salaries, the people who work for us. Thank you.
Ashley Highlander.
It's actually a dream Belleville. For a while, I was watching all of these comments about bringing this town up to par, keeping the small town charm. Yes, having the same facade really just brings it down. So as much as I was against this, I'm actually really for it. I agree wholeheartedly with Kelly about keeping the small town charm. Think about 7 years, 8 years, 10 years down the road when these houses sell, how quickly they may or may not sell again in the future because they're too much the same. I love the idea that he's talking about the different floor plans, the different fronts. I think just all of that will really help our town keep that little charm.
Jack, what are you?
Good evening, everybody. I'm in the morning. I'm one of the victims, apparently who lives on the west side that everybody in the village hates because it's an eyesore. I wanted to sort of talk through a little bit of history first, just for some of you that are new to the planning commission and to the board. Because I think the neighborhood that seems to be bothering everyone is Elward's Drive and the newest development in Baker's Woods. I will say the builder, it wasn't a great idea to put those all in one color. If you went back, I think that probably would have worked all the duplexes on Elward's. Yeah, they are blue, it doesn't look the greatest. That's it. But I don't know that this ordinance is the greatest of ideas relative to things. As it relates to the higher density properties, which are the 2-story in that newer circle area, you got to go back to remember why the village was pushing to do that was because we wanted to get a larger park in that neighborhood. Because when that whole neighborhood was platted, we didn't have any parkland. So we were basically trying to play catch up to get public space so that there was space for all the kids that live on the west side that still don't have a lot of space to play. And they don't have an easy way to get downtown because the board hasn't yet made it a priority to somehow cross over Main Street safely in order to get downtown to the rest of the park space that we've got in town. So that, I don't disagree, but I think the issue there is those are such new properties, right? Those people just moved in within the last few months. I think there's one tree in that whole neighborhood right now, but I think there's also some ordinance changes that happened after that have helped with getting trees sort of planted and set up. I live in one of the older sections of Baker's Woods. Gary, I apologize if I disagree with you, but I don't know that there's any monotony in Baker's Woods. There's tons of different facades and different floor plans and different layouts of houses. I think you mentioned that you've met with people and gone in houses over there, and yeah, some of them are the same because that's just tract homes, the way it works. But to suggest that a monotony ordinance is somehow going to like create growth for people that doesn't exist now, I would debate that with the assessment that I just got on my property that says that my house is worth, half again as much as it was 5 years ago. I don't think there's any issues. I think what he was saying as a builder is that the prices of homes have increased less from this builder than it has from other builders in the marketplace. I don't think there's anything to suggest that there's a reduced amount of growth in the value of the underlying property. So I think that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't disagree with an ordinance about divvying up colors, that sort of thing. Not exactly sure about the whole, I know you're saying it's not multifamily, but I know we've got a lot of twin homes as well, which would be single family, I believe, by ordinance. So I think in the last 5 years, all of the new construction of rental properties, this type of an ordinance, if those were single-family homes, would affect 100% of the new duplexes, the new rental properties in town. So if you're starting to say you can't have a home that looks like another home right next to it, all of Brian Runoff's properties on Brook Drive, all the duplexes on Callahan, bye-bye, you can't do that anymore. So there's far-reaching impacts here than just a simple hodgepodge of putting together an ordinance. The other question I have, is there anybody, including any of the trustees, that actually approached the builder about this issue before drafting up an ordinance? It doesn't sound to me like they knew anything about this until the ordinance was put forward. That doesn't make any sense at all. Like, we know that they own property north of town, east of town, west of town, south of town. Like, we're gonna be married together for a while. That's not, like, we're not getting away from that relationship, whether we like it or not, as a village. So it might make sense to actually have a conversation, sit down and say, hey, well, how would this work well for you? How can it work well for us? We've got these concerns. Can we come up with something that's mutually agreed upon that, and that's, again, it's not that I'm opposed to having an ordinance, but like, let's be adults, please. Like, that seems like a reasonable way to approach the issue. So anyway, with that said, again, it's not that I'm fully opposed to the ordinance, but it seems like it needs to be parsed down a lot because it seems like there's a lot of stuff that's built in it that just doesn't make a lot of sense for what Belleville's trying to do. And again, I'm not for crazy growth and I'm not for like unmitigated growth, but I think we all know as a former trustee that our budget is impacted by the amount of growth in the village. So if you shut down growth, guess what? Your budget locks up in a big hurry, and that's a lot more fun to navigate at budget time. So, thank you for the time.
That's all I have.
No other public comment? Are there any other comments?
Are you talking if you didn't sign up?
Yes.
Debbie Bonner, I live on North Park Street, I'm also a village trustee. Can you guys hear me back here? It's very hard to hear. I agree with Scott's moratorium, his ordinance, whatever. I don't see the need to have, I mean, again, we weren't talking floor plan, we were talking, they look exactly the same. It's like they took out little cardboard houses and set them all in a row. There's no, I can't say imagination, I don't know what the right word is, but there's no designation of they all look the same. I think what we're asking is that you have 9 building plans, you said. So we'll start with number 1, go to number 3, go to number 5, mix it up a little is what we're asking. I don't think that's out of the question, or is it? So I have.
Are there any other comments? Are there any other comments? Are there any other comments? Hearing none, I now close the public hearing at 7:20 p.m. All right. Now, on to discuss, consider ordinance 16.09, anti-monotony standards for residential construction. Yes, we have discussed this quite a bit already, as you know. I guess hearing everyone's input, and having read through the ordinance, and I personally am not quite sure I'm fully on board with it either. And that it needs a little more review. From as simple as anti-monotony being, a negative term. I would like to, just for optics, make it more proactive. So, any other comments?
I agree with that. I think that it's a little bit too stringent. And I think that, I understand the cookie cutter, everybody not wanting the same exact thing, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. But I mean, I think it's just, you're building a whole subdivision. Again, it's not necessarily custom homes. You don't have 7 different builders in there building custom designed homes. That's just not what it is. So to sit there and say that, hey, we can only offer this 7 times and this 6 times and this, so you get to pick, and I get what you're saying, like randomize it, but I think that's, nobody wants the same house, the same color, back to back to back to back. And I mean, I think that's should be common sense, right? I mean, I think that you go to Baker's Woods, they all are a little bit diversified now. I don't think that it's not the same color house, the same, it's not that way. I think it's easy to look and to say, other older subdivisions of Belleville, the houses are spaced out differently, they're custom homes, they were built at different times, different, they weren't built lot 1, 2, 3, 4. They were built here and then here and then here. And it's easy to get a different variance. But again, they've increased their portfolio. They're saying that we're not going to build the same house back to back to back to back. So maybe, like you said, it does need to be changed in a way to allow them to kind of continue to grow, to continue the growth of Belleville, but maybe not quite as regulated is what this is. I mean, we've got more than 25% of buildings with substantially similar front elevation or facade. Yeah. It's tough.
I mean, I understand the argument of, given, especially in the high density lots, you have more challenges with the floor plan and changing the elevation for, what the outside of the building's gonna look like you said, if you put a porch on or something, which, someone might want. And, along with that, those are the things that this ordinance is getting at, is those outside elevations and the appearance And, you know, from your standpoint of selling, yeah, that porch and might add $15,000, but limit who can buy it. You know, I guess part of me personally questions whether or not, you know, is that a significant enough difference to impact the number of buyers that are out there? I don't know.
I just point out from a procedural standpoint, an ordinance versus a resolution versus a builder's agreement. If you're going in this direction where we're changing code, that is a lot more rigid of a process. As you know, since we've had to be here and having a public hearing and everything, it sets it more in stone in the long term. It's not as flexible. It's not as situational. Whereas you can, it sounds like there are, and I'm just gonna throw this out, for better or for worse, other options than specifically sticking to ordinance to allow to work with this builder, other builders, other situations that may come up to the builder in the future without cementing something straight into code. That would be, just from a procedural standpoint, something that I feel needs to be just, like, is this where we, putting it into code, is that something where you really want to go with it?
And thank you for saying that, because it reminded me, I had my note here of how much does this is or can be covered by our design standards. You know, which, you know, to that point are a little more flexible. They're not, you know.
Well, they're still ordinance, but our design standards, but
well, our design standards are mostly geared toward downtown.
yeah.
And so we don't really have anything for residential outside of the commercial area that's strictly downtown area. Yeah, so not much of it is covered.
So, a couple comments. I'm kind of like Mike, I'm torn on this. When I first read it, I thought, okay. And then I read Kyle's letter, and like I said, it was well written and had some valid points in there. And I'm not, this is not a knock, but so the survey that you did were that had bought one of your homes, right? Correct. So that's, and which I would expect you, that's the way you would go. The problem is the commission and the board has to look at everybody. So, I mean, not that I get a ton of complaint or hear a ton of complaints, but there are people in town that would definitely be on opposite ends of those numbers that you have in your survey, but I appreciate the results from your survey. So, and I appreciate Jeff. I know he and I have had this discussion before about, or when he was on the board before, about the homes over there and, you know, the quality of homes, and they were all like I said, the homes, the single family homes are somewhat of an issue for me, but it's the other ones that have been built, you know, and again, it applies to the other buildings, whether it be Budenhoff or whoever, yeah, they all look the same. And
Are you talking about the duplexes? I just want to.
well, I'm talking, so the new apartments or whatever that are going in right on 69 there, the duplexes, or on Brook Drive that Jeff mentioned, and then Albert Circle or Albert Lane or whatever that is, you know, that, and the word that I would have said when Mike was talking about before is they look like barracks, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I'm a little confused on that because like I heard something about the siding, like the colors, like from as long as I've been in this, like when any builder that I've ever been around has built duplexes, they've always done the same color.
Yeah, I know.
You know. So I'm sorry about that, but I definitely know that it's not something you guys want.
yeah, and so, and I'm very happy to hear that you're up to 9 floor plans. Because, you know, and I do think the ordinance as it's written right now is probably too stringent, you know, that, and I realize you know, a couple houses the same, but, yeah, what I would like this to see somehow, whether it be by part of the development agreement or however we do this is, that, it can't be more than, the same design can't be used like more than 2 houses in a row or something like that, and then the other option is, and again, that was news to me really tonight because I've always assumed, and I know what assuming does, but because I'd be interested to know how many lots that you guys own have you sold or allowed other builders to come and build it. Because if you go full drive, you start full drive, there were several different builders there, and you had a variety home. And since you guys have come in and, whatever, we haven't had that. So any idea how many of those lots have been sold?
He said, I think it was 7. We sold 5 to the Altera homes.
Okay.
1 to Tim O'Brien, and then 1 that Jim Wilson built.
Okay.
We haven't been approached by anybody else.
Okay. Well, and I think that might be because I think everybody thinks that you're not going to sell it to them. So again,
No, essentially, they just, we're not gonna sell them lots for nothing.
Right, oh yeah,
That's what they want.
Right.
And then they understand, like, they have to build similar to us and they can't. So that's how. So, we're kind of. Well, we're not, because we're affordable house builders, so that's what we do. We've mastered that, so it's just something that I can't explain it.
Well, I think we've had this discussion at previous meetings, that the definition of affordable housing, is.
I compare that to every other builder in Dane County.
Yeah, I do have to say, I don't like the idea that our future pitch is building the home with the cheapest housing in Dane County. I'm not sure that's how it goes out. So
I was just pay my mortgage bill. Because it's not cheap.
well, but
We can raise prices with Belleville.
Relative to what?
Hold on, guys.
Gentlemen, please.
absolutely wrong.
So, I know about a year and a half ago, we had a discussion about opening up your sale of lots to other builders. So I'm glad to hear that, there's been some happening. And finding builders that want to come and build can be a challenge. I know that too. So,
I think honestly, I would because we're getting ready to start the next flat of Badger Trails, to develop it. I'd go back to Mr. Larson, and I would say that I'd be happy to sit down with you guys and show you hey, we lay out the whole subdivision or the whole flat. These are what we plan on building, and it's all open for discussion, right? And we can just say, hey, this is what we have success selling, so this is why we've done this, and more than happy to hear you guys' opinion, right? To make everybody happy.
And I think that, and you've seen how the community reacts. Badger Trails, you had to cut 40 or 50 lots out of there because of the for lack of a better term, when you came in with over 200 lots in there. I'd like to see that personally, and then, especially with the, Ontario's going in the property about east of the, with the along the river there.
Work to be done before that,
Yeah.
that comes in.
Yeah, and I definitely for those, because there's some, at least on the preliminary plat that I've seen, there's some big lots and could be some very big, nice homes.
And those are those are the ones,
Yeah.
similar to Bell West, right? The lots that we sold were the nice ones to those bigger custom home builders that can build the more expensive houses for people.
Okay.
So
I have a couple comments as well, Mike, sorry.
Go ahead.
I would just like to say that I agree with the sentiment of the ordinance change overall I think I agree with the statement that we do need to maybe soften the language or maybe put a more positive connotation as opposed to anti-monotony. However, the other point I would like to make is that we can sit here and have conversations right now with the situation that we're in one-to-one back and forth. I like to play things mildly conservatively and think that we should have a little bit of a trust insurance policy in place so that when the next person comes to start building houses, we don't end up in the same exact scenario where somebody got laxed or we didn't dot all the i's and cross the t's, and then we've done nothing to ensure that we don't put ourselves in the same position later. And I think whether it's through some design standards or updating the ordinances, I do think that we need to do something to ensure that it doesn't happen, because by the admission here, the houses are sold before they're or after they're built. So we're not limiting somebody's choice of like, I want this floor plan, because they're only typically, from what we've heard, purchasing what's already built.
I agree that you know, it's a good idea to possibly have something in place for the next builder also. You know, who is the next, 50 years from now or whatever what's happening. My primary concern is, the limitations, it sounds like, of high density lots. From a personal standpoint of, those are very easy to end up looking like the barracks. And that is to be avoided. Not that can't happen on larger lots also. But you do have a lot more options there. I guess, did you have a question, Ian, or?
But you don't have to do an ordinance, you can do it in NDA, the development agreement. I mean, anybody who's going to be doing any development of any size enters into a development agreement with us. It can be something where we work on development. Or it can be something we work with the development agreements we currently have to amend those. So we can have a conversation with Josh and see what will work for us, what will work for him, amend the development agreements moving forward, and have some common language, boilerplate language, just like we do for every development agreement. That way it's not ordinance, but it's still workable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is probably the cleaner way to do it. And again, just the connotations with the title of this ordinance, and we try not, we try not to make negative motions. This is a negative ordinance. Most of our ordinances don't come across like this, but at least title wise. So,
I don't know, lewd and lascivious conduct.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sexually oriented businesses, some of those, there are some in there, yes, but, yeah.
So,
I don't know, this is an idea I had.
I think at minimum the ordinance has to, I'm sorry, were you? Okay. I think at minimum the ordinance has to go back and get worked on a little more. At this point, I don't think we could, unless someone disagrees here, I don't think we're gonna make any motion to take this to the board as it is, correct?
I agree, and I think I'd like to see, whether it be you, Ian, or our council, whatever, maybe a draft of what wording in a revised, in Josh's case, development agreement, or as a boilerplate language in future development agreements, what that might look like that addresses this issue.
Is that, Josh, are you cool with working on that?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Obviously there's gonna be some, I'll work with you, you guys gotta work with me, right? that's.
So I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. So I'll work with Josh and Rick, the attorney, make sure that we get some draft of something to present to you guys for next time. But then also working on this ordinance. Besides making it fluffier, is there anything specific? I mean, the one thing that I see is the thing that's been brought up where it's single family attached. You say single family attached, I don't know what you're talking about. Because I don't know where the original the original ordinance came from, but that must have been, you know, a defined thing in that ordinance, and in ours, it's not. But if there's anything else specific,
So, well, I think, see, that's, where is it in here? It says 25%. No two single-family dwellings to attached buildings of substantially similar front elevation facade shall be constructed or located adjacent to one another, or constructed or located more than 25% of buildings of substantially similar. I don't know, is that too restrictive? You know, should it be a percentage? Should it be, number of units in a row that shouldn't repeat, or, it needs work with clarifying, I think, so.
So if you look at Kyle's letter under section 3, so it'd be on page 4, that floor plans could have different, and then you list like 8 different items on here. So I read that and I thought, okay, that's kind of what I was looking for. Did you contradict what you said in this letter when you got up? And it was kind of, it sounded like you could do that, but you couldn't or didn't want to or whatever.
No, so we said we can do it, but obviously there's a cost associated.
There's a cost,
with it,
yeah.
And then also with the ordinance, it's also just more steps in the process that's gonna slow things down, has to improve.
And I know no developer likes all the process that we go through to, Badger Trails took a long time to get through, but, there was a lot of input on that at that time. So, and you're not the only one. I mean, we've had a couple other builders that have come in, the ones that have bought the church, the old Catholic church property. He got a lot of feedback that night, and, so again, that's why we have the public hearings and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna happen, and, we don't want to circumvent the process we use, but, because I'm guessing it's even more stringent in other communities, than it is here, but,
I think that's what we're trying to, avoid, right? Like, we wanna be here, right? We wanna help Belleville, we just don't wanna be ran out because of ordinances that are getting passed. So we're here to just be like, hey, work with us, right? And it seems like you guys are willing to do that, and that's something you guys choose to do, more than happy. I get everybody's concern.
I've always said the process, in my mind, is kind of backwards. You meet with staff and come with your preliminary plans and have a discussion. You spend all the time and money developing your preliminary plat maps and all that kind of stuff, and then you come and either people love it or they hate it or not, or hopefully somewhere in between. But so it seems like we should change that process, but that's not going to happen. But
that's the same process everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's pretty normal, but that's why everybody's got a job, right?
Yep.
So I guess also,
I was just gonna ask, am I correct in interpreting that you want us to pursue the ordinance change to achieve this objective without being so restrictive? Is that my understanding?
That would be my thought. And again, as Maren pointed out, an ordinance is much more restrictive and more difficult, especially in this chapter of the ordinance, to change. So I think if we could go down the revised, except for Josh, on this stuff right now, a revised development agreement, and then, boilerplate language that we have in any future development agreements, that might be the cleaner, easier way to do it.
I'll come up with both.
Okay. That's what I'd like to see.
Is it fair to say that, obviously, there's still a process for some of these other developments, but like, if we take Badger Trails, the next 2 plats, there's over 160 lots left to build in there, right? So like, more than willing to work with the board or the village on doing this. Whatever we can agree on in this, it should probably be able to be rolled over.
Carry over to the other.
Right? So we're hitting it all at once instead of trying to go back through the same process.
I would think so, yeah. Like I said, if we can come up with some language, and revise your current agreement that we would just use in future development agreements, whether it be with you or any other developer that comes in, would be
Something that would generally work for the plan commission and board, and also hopefully work for you. And so, I don't know if it's possible, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So, I guess also for time management, primary focus, I think, should be on, the development agreement and getting some sort of potential boilerplate language for that, followed up by, if you have time for the ordinance changes, I'm sure other people can provide input on the ordinance also.
Yeah, so I can reach out to a few different communities that have it and see what they wish they'd done different. And, I should be able to get both done within a month, so. Okay.
I think in the meantime, like I said, we're pulling the next 26 permits in the plat we're in, and I mean, the inspector will definitely have everything, and I mean, we're gonna do a good spread so you guys can kind of see, right? Like you'll be able to see, and we give elevations of everything with the lot layout to the inspectors, so like even if you just went there, you won't see it up in the next month, but at least you can see it on paper and the different spread of houses and where they're located, so.
So you said most of your houses are spec houses, so if somebody came to you and said, they want to buy a lot 36, just to pick a number, they can still pick the house, the design they want on that lot, right?
If we already have it, if we have the foundation in.
Yeah, so if
they came to us now and we haven't pulled a permit, yes.
Okay,
So more than likely, when we have a permit, it's not changing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, but once you got foundations for it, it's.
So that's the nice part about like what we're talking about, so like going into these next plats, like with 80 lots, like we can lay it all out. We're not scared to do that, and if we have to change something, then it makes it easy with some sort of monotony, right? Because we can be like, hey, this is what's around us, but we're just putting this model here, taking it out, so I mean, yeah.
Okay.
So we don't need a motion.
I have directed the staff, I think that's sufficient at this moment.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments? I'll let the public speak if you've got anything else. No? Okay.
We're gonna move on then. So, close the public hearing, we've got a discussion. Any announcements, statements, or questions? Time, future agenda items.
So I know, I think in one of Drew's last updates, we talked about the comprehensive plan, and we should be getting something coming to the commission shortly, I'm guessing, right? Or?
Yes, I believe we're expecting to see some actual writing done here in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And our next meeting is September 9th. I'll entertain a motion.
Move adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Sorry, Larry beat you, sorry. Kelly. Got a motion to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. At 7:48.